Dear Invisible Rebels, welcome to the realm of spiritual life coaching based on unconditional love and unity, infinite possibility, absolute freedom, and higher consciousness. We are delighted to offer you jewels of wisdom from purposefully selected works of spiritual literature, soulful poetry, and cosmic thinkers. Use them as nourishing food for self-reflection and thought transformation, emotional healing, mindful meditation, profound self-awareness, powerful decisions, and miracle creation for lasting change. Be still and surrender to the present moment and the divine healing powers of the music, and allow yourself to enjoy the journey of discovery into your inner self. Together, we are the Invisible Rebels. See you on the other side. Facing fear. It is vanity, or pride if you will, which is the true enemy of the secret self. For with consciousness centered in the surface self, with the vanity that self-centeredness brings, an opaque veil is drawn over all spiritual perception, and man lives isolated from the wellsprings of his being. He may struggle through life many years in this incarnation, attacking his problems and pursuing his goals with the persistent energy of an enterprising fly. But eventually he must be brought up short by the realization that he simply is ineffectual, and he had best find a new blueprint of thought and action, or give up the ghost altogether. One ant alone does not topple a rubber tree plant. Only the concerted effort and teamwork of thousands of ants make this feat possible. And the energy and effort of one human being is nothing by itself, but is everything when it proceeds from the source of all energy. For then, it is attuned to the tides and forces of the cosmos, becomes in a manner an irresistible force, a kind of infallible action. Success stories often are fictions concocted by the human desire to achieve supremacy over circumstance. Most people fit into a kind of equation. They react a certain way when confronted with certain circumstances, and therefore must act a certain way always when confronted with those same circumstances. For example, suppose a man is afraid of groups of people when he is unacquainted with them, and expected to circulate amongst them and communicate. If early in life he gives in to his fear and avoids new groups, such behavior becomes a habit, and one that he eventually finds impossible to break. Therefore, all through his life, when confronted with a strange social situation, he will avoid it through one pretense or another, simply because he has built up a habit of acceding to fear. He is absolutely predictive in each circumstance of this type, and he is predictive because he is not free, because he is a slave to his fears. He has become an automaton led around by the nose, a victim of circumstances because he is not a master of his feelings. He tends to regard circumstance itself as the evil. He says, people in groups are uninteresting. They bore me. They don't bore him at all. They scare the hell out of him. So much so that he avoids them at all costs, leaves a large blank in a portion of his psyche, and is completely frustrated in this area of his growth. And it is his own fault. He simply cannot bring himself to muster the courage necessary to face his fear. You cannot run away from a weakness. You must sometimes fight it out or perish. And if that be so, why not now? And where do you stand? Fittingly enough, these lines were penned by a writer bedfast through illness. But he turned that illness into a great victory, eventually recovering his health and giving the world masterpieces of literature. His name? Robert Louis Stevenson. He says we must not be soft with ourselves, no matter what our goals or positions. All things fare best when they are constantly tested by opposition. The sturdiest grass is that which must grow through concrete. The codled lawn burns clean away at first exposure to sun or wind. If we have an aching muscle, we must learn to exercise it, not to rest it, and we'll soon find the muscle is healed. If our psyche is closing us in, cutting us off from life and growth and expansion, then we must learn to test and use and expand that psyche. If we do not, the psyche will atrophy, cut off completely all normal ties with life. Still, to be human is to be weak, is to be subject to sin and suffering and error. And as long as we live, we never truly overcome any of these. But as long as we live, we must try. For we truly live only when we try. What we finally have to learn is that we cannot expect an ultimate or even a satisfying victory over our infirmities when we meet them one by one, but only when we have found a way of assembling all on the same field of battle for one final showdown. What results then must be a complete step forward in our evolution as human beings, for no one is ever defeated who gathers courage to face his assembled weaknesses. How is this possible? Someone may ask. How does one gather all his weaknesses in one spot and overcome them? It is not simple or even apparent. In isolated areas, yes. If you have a tendency to be afraid of new situations, then you can build up confidence about them by forcing yourself to enter into them. Sooner or later, you're bound to meet each new situation calmly, if not eagerly, for the general condition of newness has become familiar. This exercise of willpower, however, while it will tend to give you courage in every aspect of your life, simply because you have met fear in one area and defeated it, nevertheless will not overcome a tendency to be lazy, for example, or untruthful, or disloyal, or even to eat too much. As a matter of fact, it can readily be seen that this helter-skelter treatment of the unholy psyche is much like a man trying to plug a series of leaks in a dike with his fingers. Eventually, all 10 fingers will be occupied, and still the new leaks come. What is needed is a new approach to the psyche, one that treats it as a single thing, and not as a group of aberrations or incomplete perceptions. And the approach which gives 100% cures in 100% of cases is one in which the individual comes to know and be aware of his secret self. Each of us faces life with an undeveloped psyche. It is undeveloped because it is less than whole, because it is only a partial manifestation of something greater than itself. Only insofar as it approaches awareness of this greater self does it approximate wholeness or self-sufficiency. That sense of self, which we use our daily rounds of effort, is useful only insofar as it is larger than the task we undertake. It is perfectly up to peeling potatoes, for instance, but when something large is asked of it, then it may cower in the corner. Bridges are built by the secret self, and not by the surface ego of man. Towers and highways and planes and automobiles and television are wrought by the secret self. All books are written by the same author. All pictures painted by the same artist. All music written by the same composer. The ego of the individual is simply not up to such tasks. And as long as a man lives entrapped in bondage to his surface self, then his efforts can only be crowned by such puny results as fit his ego. Only when he tears himself away, divorces himself from vanity and conceit and ego and surface self, can he at last perceive the true dimensions of the being that dwells within him. Then he knows his true self. Then he turns his life over to it. We hope you have enjoyed this journey into the magic secrets of your higher self, making love to the universal mind. We send you loads of love and positive vibrations and hope to see you soon in our next video. Don't forget to show your love by liking the video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing the video with like-minded rebels. We are keen to create a critical mass of open-minded fellow humans who take serious ownership of their life, yet with a light-hearted spiritual edge. Find your community and start a discussion below. What is your perception of the concepts presented today? How do you apply them in your everyday life? Tell us. And have no fear. Together, we are the Invisible Rebels.